Medicine for me is like, it's. I think of it in the sense of like my own work and what I do with my work and my music. For me, it's healing. I don't think of medicine as you know, a cabinet full of pills or anything like that. More kind of, yeah, it's just this beautiful healing that we can all have access to through our art, through through the tools that, that we've kind of over the years. Um, for example, with my music, I don't look at it so much as entertainment or, when I'm kind of connecting to music or doing, working on my voice, whatever. It's like, for me, it's always been the starting point for me has always been like for my own self kind of care and healing, so it's, yeah, I don't know, it's not something when I started doing it that I was like, oh, this is really healing. It was just like, oh, this makes me feel good. I was always going by how it made me feel rather than having any kind of spiritual terms attached to it, I always go by how does this make me feel, and does this make me feel, in alignment, and because that's my compass. You know, I guess with the songs, I always write for myself. I never think about the audience or anything like that. It's always primarily the relationship to myself. This is how I make sense of the world, and um, like, people would share with me. People would come to me and share that, these songs would somehow give them permission to feel, the kind of, or make peace with the imperfections with their own parts of their life and their own being, And I think sometimes, at least in this kind of world, sometimes, we need to, not even sometimes, we just need to make space for duality. And, and it's a great honour to know that the music has touched people and it's really supported people in difficult moments. And, I don't know, like, that's kind of my process. I really love to shine the light on the shadow. That's my medicine. Like, that's what kind of supports me in my journey. It's like, kind of like brushing away, the debris, and seeing what's behind that. And I'm not afraid of I'm not afraid of kind of the shadow. I'm not afraid of it. It's like, it just helps me feel more connected. And if that helps other people, then that's such a beautiful bonus. That it speaks to other people, and that people share their appreciation for that, because it doesn't make them feel alone in that process. Because we all go through it, right? We have moments in life where, we can celebrate our victories, but there are times in our life where we're really in a dark place or feeling lost in the valley. And when somebody, I guess, is expressing your own heart, it gives you this sense of peace, and like, you feel seen and heard, even not necessarily directly meeting the artist or the musician or whatever, but that music speaks to their own heart, and that's beautiful. I think like I think all the arts are incredibly powerful for that reason. I think that's why in some cultures music is banned, and forbidden, because it does put you into an altered state. It does give you a sense of community. An incredible bridge between you, in this physical body, and the kind of unseen world. And I think music is such a powerful tool for connection and for liberation. I mean, we all come here, to medicine, and it's like, it's not just the music, it's the art. It's like, looking at all these beautiful shrines and bringing back the sacred, bringing back, the kind of wondrous part of life, you know, like this sense of wonder and spirit, and you know, being together for 4 or 5 days, you know, and kind of, you know, singing around the fire, and this sense of community, because in day-to-day life, you know, we can get so caught up with just, you know, making, you know, trying to make way, you know, make our way through life. And I say that for myself, you know, I know that I can, you know, all of a sudden you've got to do your missions, and you can feel this disconnection or whatever. And I think when we come together like this, especially when there's no alcohol, which I really appreciate and love, you know, don't get me wrong, I love my wine, I love a good glass of wine, but I think what's really nice is that we can be with each other as we are. It feels really safe, the energy feels super clean, and you know, it's just, for me, it's like coming, you know, to spend time with family, you know, like with my kids. And I just yeah, I think it's a very powerful, it's a powerful tool, you know. And I think that's probably why in some cultures it's forbidden, or because they know it brings people together and it can create revolutions, you know, and it can change people's perspective, and it unites people. And um, so I think we're very privileged to kind of live in a society, you know, where we can celebrate. And you know, in terms of using my platform for social change, I start with myself, and that's, you know, I don't have this feeling of wanting to be a savior, or like going out there, and because I just feel I can take responsibility for myself. I share what I love, I share what I'm passionate about, you know, which is the voice and the music. And you know, if people resonate with that, and if it shifts something in their life, that's beautiful, you know. But for me, it's like, for my own well-being, it's, I'm always starting with me, and you know, if it ripples out, that's beautiful, you know. Yeah, I don't know if I have, like, it feels such a big responsibility to kind of, you know, social change. I mean, maybe there is, of course there is probably that element to what I'm doing, but that's not what drives me. It's not my, you know, I'm not driven by that. I'm just driven by, I want to be a better version of myself. You know, I want to kind of share things that make me feel alive and connected, and make me feel like I'm doing something good for my own life, for my own family, you know. And if that touches people, you know, then I think that's really beautiful. You know, I think it's a bonus. And of course, I guess with like the voice work, in a way, like, I guess, and maybe in some ways, you know, the voice work that I share, again, it's just like, I feel so passionate in that, in the notion that we all have a voice, and you know, creating spaces for people to find their own voice. Because when I started connecting to music, and when I started to explore singing, it's not necessarily I had the greatest voice, but I just loved it, and it gave me so much, and that was my medicine. That was what, um, you know, that's where I felt the most alive, and I felt this sense of freedom. And you know, I guess in that way, I love to share that with people, and to break this belief system that people are not creative, or they're not, that singing is for just the talented and the few. And you know, it's just like, if more of us came together and sang in communities, and I don't know, like, it's just, it brings such a, I know how it works for my own inner world. I know how, you know, when I sing or when I create songs, how it can turn my darkness into something so much more potent and, you know, beautiful, and it transforms this heaviness into something light. And if I'm doing that for myself, you know, and then that's created for other people, you know, I guess maybe that's a social change in itself, you know, like, people come and they have this beautiful experience for themselves, and then those ripples go into their family and into their communities, you know. I love seeing. I mean, you know, when I see people, you know, when people are in their vulnerability in the workshops or those voice journeys, you know, it's for me, it's that's like I see that that's doing exactly what it needs to. You know, it's like I think when we sing, especially when it's not coming from a place of entertainment, we're just coming to use the voice in a kind of holistic tool or holistic approach. And you see it in the moment, you see this transformation happening, and you see maybe that people are going through maybe quite you know, maybe a bit of there's like an inner storm that's happening in that moment, and then you see the tears flowing, and you see this reclamation happening. It's so beautiful, so powerful, you know. It's like it's a very beautiful thing, and I don't like to direct it so much. I like people to access it themselves because we all have this inner knowledge. And for me, what I discovered for myself is that, you know, when I sing, then I'm singing in that space or just kind of improvising in the moment. It kind of opens a portal and it helps me to get clarity and it helps me to receive a lot of knowledge that's already there, but it's just covered in layers of, you know, thoughts and ideas of whatever, you know, like all the clutter, all the kind of the mind clutter. And when I sing, it's like it clears it all away, and then it helps to kind of, that's where it starts to alchemize, and when you start to see that with people that come to the workshops, it's very beautiful. You see it happening because they start crying, and you know, you see the emotion, the emotions moving, you know, and it's you know, and to know that they feel safe to be like that, you know, because it's a very vulnerable space, I think. And I think for many of us, and I say it for myself, you know, our voice is the most untapped resource that we have. Like, it's probably the thing that we feel the most, we can feel the most exposed, you know, even speaking, I'm not even talking about singing, but even just speaking and communicating who we are in the world and how we all want to be understood and not feel misunderstood. Um, so there's so many layers to that, you know, so many layers. And I think for me, singing it was so much easier for me to sing than it was to speak. Speaking, it was always I feel more vulnerable speaking somehow. When I sing, it's like I can communicate my emotions through sound, you know, and it's like
You get a bit lost.
yeah, and I think, you know, I was really trying to, you know, this kind of this line, speaking our truth. I was really thinking about that recently and what that actually meant, because I know there's times in my life where, you know, speaking my truth is not necessarily always that it has to be like this kind of rawest, you know, loud expression, you know, like speaking my truth might just be in silence as well. Like speaking my truth, um, it's not linear. Not a linear process, you know, because there's times where I feel fully in my power and I feel like I'm able to express myself fully. And then there's other times where I feel more kind of vulnerable, and I think it's how to be with that energy and to embrace that energy and not try to, you know, force it all the time. I would say hold my hand is probably, you know, because that really talks about being in the depths of despair, like when you're in the darkest place and you feel like you've tried fucking everything. You've tried, you know, you've tried all the tricks, and you know, you're on your knees praying for you know, a break from existence, you know, um, and and then there's that kind of second half of the song where it says, you know, hold my hand, it will be over soon. Because we always, at least for me, I just have these, you know, when sometimes we're in these really challenging spaces in our life, and it's like there's always this little voice, like this kind of, it's our voice, but it's almost coming from a much more centered space, and it's like this little voice is, you know, our higher self. I don't know what you want to call it. It sounds really whatever, but it's just like giving you this, this little kind of golden nugget of hope, and I think so many of my songs, in a way, like they all do that. Really, they're all very much like it's really about the human experience, and I'm really good. I'm really good at like kind of expressing about the shadows and how to alchemize that into something, like how to transform the pain into hope or into some kind of opening, but it's a really, for me, when I'm in a hard place, this is a really good one for me to sing, because it's like these songs, they help me to remember, because sometimes I feel like I've got split personality, I'm like, this doesn't feel like the same person that is living day-to-day life, it's like these songs, it's like somebody who's super mature and like who seems to have all their shit together, but it's like, yeah, these songs are like little reminders for my own heart, because even though I wrote them, I can easily go back into old patterns or be forgetful or feel that sense of separation. And when I sing these songs, it makes me feel back in my power. It helps me to remember the essence, and that how to walk through those challenges in life with grace, and not to push away the darkness, and not to push away of course it brings discomfort, but it's more about how to embrace that part of who we are as well, rather than edit out of our life, because that's, for me at least, what brings the suffering, is when we're trying to push it away. And so these songs are really, they're really embracing those two sides of my being, the Nessi that is kind of flying through life, but also the Nessi that's on her knees. And I'm very good at I'm very good at navigating those waters. It doesn't scare me.
Getting friendly with your shadow.
Yeah, and I know it sounds like such a, I don't know. Probably, yeah, I don't know. Like, this is, I think I've always been dancing with the shadow from the moment I entered this planet, Like, I didn't have the easiest kind of, I don't know, like my childhood felt quite challenging, and I struggled a lot with mental health when I was a young teenager, and music saved my life. Like, I have so much, I give so much thanks to being able to have music as my companion in life, because it pulled me out of some of the darkest places, and even still to this day, it's just the best remedy. Because even if you don't have words attached to your songs, your voice can communicate a whole world of emotions that might not even have words to it, and that's why it's so powerful, because that sound is like an arrow, and it can communicate a certain frequency, and we know that when we have conversations with our friends, and you say, "How are you doing?" and they're like, "Yeah, I'm good." And their words tell you that they're good, but the energy of how they deliver those words tell you something very different. And it's the same, so when you're sounding or voicing or singing or however you're doing it, you can communicate so much, and also clearing your system out of all the heaviness. And I know that's why for me singing is such a, it is my medicine. Music is my medicine, and I'm so grateful that I was able to kind of find that as my, and for some people it's other things, being in nature, or but for me it's, I guess with music, it's the quickest thing that creates a conversation with our body, like with our whole being, the way you can listen to a piece of music and it can instantly change your mood and shift your whole perspective. It can make you feel, you can be from feeling tired to energized. It's so quick in that way. And when it's your voice and it's working on your body, and it's like you're singing and you're vibrating and you're like, it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So for me, I guess like that's why I'm so passionate in that sense of bringing it to as many people as possible and creating these containers where people can experience that for themselves, because I know it saved my life. And how, I went down the road of having, therapy, and it was beautiful, and it did what it needed to do. But I remember often feeling, coming out of, say, talking therapy, and it's like you're just repeating this narrative. And in the beginning it's fine because it feels kind of really good to feel heard, but then after a while it's just like you're kind of tired of your own voice, and you're talking about the story that is just like taking you back to this difficult time in your life, or trying to make sense of it, or using the rational mind. And when you sing, it's instant. You don't need to bring any narrative there. You're just connecting to whatever is present for you in the moment. And for me, that moves a lot more than just kind of talking about it, going over, because it just, it, right? When we have those conversations with friends, and you're riled up or whatever, or something's really upsetting you, and at least for me, it's like it can be like just going round in circles and repeating it, and then I just feel this energy getting triggered in my system and my body, and then I sing and it clears it, and I can go to those places but without the narrative. I can sing and I can clean it, and it still did exactly the same, but if not better, because I didn't need to revisit those painful places by attaching to the story. I could just go to the story, give it a sound or whatever, like give it a representation through voice, through some kind of sonic landscape, and it just, it's kind of transforms it into something different.